You are listening to Bootstrap Farmer Radio.
Hey everybody, I wanted to set this one up, doing something a little different. Finally kind of back around the Texas area, and just outside of DFW is a little farm called Jubilant Fields, which is ran by a 13-year-old Dawson Mahalko. We've been keeping an eye on Dawson for the last few months, and quite honestly, pretty blown away with everything he's accomplishing at such a young age. So we wanted to have him on the show. He agreed. His parents hosted us, and we filmed this outside underneath a shade tree, just steps away from his farm. And I'm going to let him speak for himself. Dawson's got a great head on his shoulders. He's got a good family, and it was my honor to sit down with him for about half an hour. Enjoy. Hey everybody, this is Nick, and I am just outside of Trenton, Texas with Dawson Mahalko of Jubilant Fields. You got an interesting story to tell. A little young to be doing something entrepreneurial, but that's what we're all about, and we want to make sure that we show the example that starting out at any age is a good idea, especially the way you've gone about it. So if you don't mind, go through like the last year or so of how you at least got the interest, and then we'll start unpacking that and seeing how you got going.
Well, so I've been into gardening for ever since I was very young, and then about in early 2017, I read Elliot Coleman's books, and then I went on to find Curtis Stone's YouTube channel. And once I found his channel, I said, yeah, I can definitely start now. I don't have to wait until I'm older, because like Elliot Coleman was talking about, 5 acres in order to make good money, and that's way too big for me to be able to do anything. But there's been plenty of innovation now. So with Curtis Stone and all the things that he was teaching, I got his book and Jean Martin's book and just kind of went from there. And so last year I was just growing stuff as a garden and selling a bit of it, but it wasn't full-on commercial production. And then this year I really decided, okay, I want to go after this and make some good money. But it's all been making decisions just in a split second. Okay, yeah, I want to go do that. It's never been sitting around for a long time deciding whether I want to do it or not.
One of the things that I can already hear people saying is, well, of course you can invest the time to try this out. You got a roof over your head, you know, your bills are kind of covered and all that kind of thing. But for me, the important thing is you looked into the books, you looked into 3 people that do a lot for the industry, but you decided, you made a choice at one point that yes, you're gonna go for it, because right now you have a little bit of cushion that you can do that. And I think with anybody else's situation, each of us has a cushion to some extent, and all of our cushions are different. But you're in a good position. You had enough land to kind of get going. Your first initial round of, okay, I'm going to start selling to people. Who did you reach out to?
So I reached out to some people that I know, and I got a bit of interest, not as much as I was originally hoping, but I got a good amount of interest, and I was able to, I sold it as a CSA model, and so I was offering month-to-month payment, or at the beginning, if they were to pay for several months in advance, they would get a free additional amount of veggies per box for the entire program. So that went really well, and then that was where a lot of my start capital came from. And then I also got some capital from my parents. They were very generous in that way, and it was about $1,500, not a whole lot. And so that was my initial market. And then I had also talked to a chef in McKinney, and he showed some interest. And so I figured, okay, well, once I have the product, I'll take it in there too and try to get him as a customer.
It's pretty. I remember back when we started. It's whenever you start getting that interest from chefs and 2 or 3 people, that's when you start getting those early validations that be like, you know, there is something here. The people that didn't hop on board that you thought might have, do you think they were as concerned about maybe the age, maybe you wouldn't follow through or something like that? What was their reservations?
Well, I originally just reached out to them via email, and for the most part, I didn't hear back from them, except for told everybody that I'd call them after a few days if I hadn't heard back, just to follow up, and that was definitely a good move, because that's how I got most of my customers. But most people just said, no, we're not really interested. So maybe they had some other reservations that I don't know about, but that's all that they told me, and that's fine. I don't mind.
Yeah, and there's a large portion of the population that just don't eat vegetables, or it's not
Yeah.
a big part of them. So it's definitely part of that client discovery that we talk a lot about. That we have to find the type of people that's willing to support not only local for those social benefits, but there's a lot of people that just don't eat that kind of food. So it's finding that right segment of people that want to eat right, that want to eat better, and still support local. It's a very thin slice of the demographic pie. So
Yeah, and then other people, they may want to support that kind of stuff, but they, like you said, they don't eat it because they don't like them, especially because what they get from the grocery store isn't very good. And I've had a few customers who portions of their family would not eat vegetables. They didn't like it, and now they're avid supporters because they love my stuff.
So for those of you that aren't aware where this farm is, it's in between Bonham, Texas, and northern DFW. It's a very, very tiny community. Obviously, we can't service this whole area because of the demographics that we just talked about. So your drop-off point and the people that you reached out to, where did that all begin?
So it was friends from church, and so I reached out to them, a bunch of families there, and I got some interest and customers there, and so every Sunday at church, I just take the boxes there and they pick it up.
Which is
So
great,
it's-
because
yeah.
you're already going there, so one less trip to make.
And this is a warm market too, because Dawson's been selling stuff to them. We've been going to the same community for 10 years.
All right, that's a good tidbit right there.
I was kind of surprised though that I got some of them as customers, because the stuff that I used to take was extremely low quality. So some of them probably didn't like it, which was why they never bought again from me. So I was pretty happy when I actually did get some customers.
Well, it's hard to hit a home run first time out of the bat, so
Yeah.
What was his goal was 8 or 10 CSA customers, and he had 8.
Initially, yeah, it was 8.
Has there been any, like, now that you've gone on for the last few weeks, few months, people wanting to get on, or interest has peaked once they've seen?
Yeah, I've had some additional interest within the church, and then I've actually been reached out to by a few people over social media, but I don't, because I'm delivering at church, that's the drop-off place, doesn't really make sense to try to bring them in, and plus I haven't had the product yet to be able to do that. But I'm going to be starting a new farmer's market in less than a week. So I'm going to start advertising that. And then once I start there, then I'll start offering the salad boxes, because that's more or less what they are. I've kind of rebranded them from CSA boxes to salad boxes. It's mostly just a bunch of greens. Then I'll try to take on salad box customers there. And then I can offer it more to the general public versus just friends.
The good thing, what I'm liking about this whole conversation is you're starting off small, you're hitting a network of people you already know. They're in essence growing with you. I feel like they probably allowed for a little inconsistency in the beginning, and they've let you come into it with their support, and now you're starting to branch off a little here, a little there, instead of just trying to take over the whole world. A lot of people, when they start a company, they're like, oh, we're going to do this and that and the other. And you're taking the approach of very small incremental growth, which we're big fans of. Was that intentional? Was that just kind of something that happened?
It was definitely intentional, but to a degree. So originally when I decided that I wanted to start producing commercially, I said, okay, I'll just try to get people signed up for salad boxes, just friends that I know. But then within like the next week, I said, okay, I want to sell to the general public when I can, and I want to sell to restaurants and all that. but it's more of a, well, I don't have the product, and I keep having failures out in my beds, so...
Which will never end.
Yeah,
it's
but
something different every year.
I have to at least learn the basic pests and such that just live around here and can easily wipe out a crop, and then allow for the anomalies, of course.
And before we start, when we were taking a look at the farm, I said, well, this is a pretty good size, and you made the comment that you were almost thinking that you should have started out smaller.
Yeah, I think that this was a good size, but based off of the equipment that I had, it was definitely a hurdle to get started. I was hand digging all the beds, so it was a lot of work to get the beds formed and such. And then I've just had so many failures that in that way I think I might say that it would have been better to start off smaller. But at the same time, in the past when I've gardened here, I haven't seen any of these pests, so I don't know if they are just showing up because I have larger amounts of those kind of crops. And so if that's the case, well, then I wouldn't know if I started off smaller. And then as I try to grow, and I think I have systems down better, then I'm getting hit by all of these, and I already have customers out in the general public. I would be a lot more worried about not being able to deliver to people that I don't know versus people that I know, because I can more easily explain to people that I know, and they're more understanding.
One of the things I've talked about in the past is our client list. They know us very well. They're used to high quality, but every now and then they understand that they're buying local, and that every now and then we're going to have a bad week. And as long as we're open and upfront about that, like before, like if I know a delivery is going out and it's subpar, we'll either cancel the whole week and take the financial hit, or we'll call it up and say, hey, this is what's going on. If you don't like it, 100% money back. We get the pass from our clients because they're in it with us. A CSA model, I think they're more in it with you because there is that upfront investment. But I think as long as you're open with your clients and they know what's going on, they allow a certain percentage of, okay, well, there was a bad week.
So it kind of feels like every week is a bad week, considering all the failures that I've had. But within about the last month, the boxes have really been filled up nicely. Though there have been times where it was very, very small boxes, way less than there should have been. And I said, all right, I will either give you back money, or when you resubscribe, I'll knock some off of the resubscription fee.
Did you have any reactions to those statements? Did anybody get back with you or take you up on that offer?
It was all, okay, that's fine. And they did, so everyone got a portion knocked off of their renewal fee.
Yeah. This year has been extremely erratic for us in North Texas. We had a very, very wet spring that put everybody behind, and now it's just, I think every year it gets hotter and hotter.
Dry gulls.
But this has just really been a bad year weather-wise. But I'm sitting here, everything looks great, but there's also a lot of shade cloth. So how did you implement that? How did you decide that other than absolute necessity?
Well, everything that I looked at, I said I absolutely have to have shade cloth for growing here in the South. Everything that I've seen on Curtis Stone's YouTube channel and him talking to growers in the South, they all have to use shade cloth for greens and such. Everyone that I talked to at Johnny said, yeah, you're going to need shade cloth. So it was just, okay, I'm going to have to use shade cloth versus, let's see if I can get away without it or not. And frankly, I wouldn't be able to germinate anything at this time of year without shade cloth.
Well, and at this level, it's a pretty significant investment up front. So to make that call early on, I mean, I give you kudos for. There's a lot of people that will look at an initial investment like that and go, should I do it? Should I not? And right now, you just starting out at your age, had the foresight to go, I'm going to go ahead and make that investment in myself and my farm. That's the kind of thing we're looking at. And one of the reasons I'm here is we have so many people that are like, I'm going to do this next year. If X, Y, and Z happens, then we can get going. But you're here doing it. And I think the example that you're at least out doing, trying, and having success. It may be small success at this point, but had we all started out at this age, where would we all be? And I think there's a huge lesson to be gained there. So if you have any words of encouragement to a lot of adults out there that are having a hard time pulling the trigger.
Yeah, well, I would just say that you have to start. It's just it doesn't matter what size you just have to start. I kind of jumped off into the deep end without enough capital, so I've had to throughout the beginning of this year, I've had to talk to my parents and say, hey, could I take a small loan? I need a few $100s to get this or that. That's what I had to do for the shade cloth. I said it's getting hotter than I expected, faster than I expected, and I'm gonna need shade cloth or else I'm gonna lose stuff. And then if I lose stuff, there's no way I'm gonna be able to keep making money or pay them back or any of that. So
to me, that's very interesting the way you frame that, because you didn't go asking for money. You said, "Can I get a loan?"
Yeah.
Can we do a payback structure? So every business needs finance. Everybody needs capital, but you never. I don't know. You know, I'm sure some things happen, but you knew that nothing was going to be given to you. I mean, you do have the land, which is an asset. But you looked at that going, this is something I need to invest in. My investors, whoever they may be, need to be paid back at some point. So I like the way you just haven't expected anything. You haven't expected the weather or the bugs or the clients or the capital to be there, but you've made it happen.
Yeah, I haven't especially asked for anything, but a few things were just kind of a given, as in plenty of land, I can use that, and a lot of this would not be possible for me if I was not still a minor and under my parents' roof, because this cushion wouldn't be here and I wouldn't have access to the land necessarily. So it was just a lot of things fell into place. And so while I haven't been asking especially for a whole lot of like free money, there have been plenty of times where I ask, hey, could we go to Home Depot or Lowe's? I need to grab this or that. Though I've also been given, my parents were very generous with me on my birthday. They gave me $500 for a Jang cedar, which has been crucial now that I'm scaling up my production, and it's wiped out it's given me a whole day of the week back, because it would take me so long to just hand seed everything, and now I can do it all in an hour. So that was a very critical piece of equipment, and I'm very thankful for that.
So we're not videoing this one, but I'm sitting here grinning from ear to ear because I see so many people on the forums go, again, if X, Y, and Z happens, I'm going to get a Jang cedar, without any consideration that if they just make that investment. No, I mean, there's things you can do to finance. I mean, you could go to pawn shops, you could do all these things, you could sacrifice a little bit, get that Jang cedar, and like you just said, get the entire day of the week back. I use my Jang cedar 4 days out of the year, but it saves me hours and days of labor. So again, you're ahead of the curve on a lot of people, because you've understood the upfront investment is going to pay dividends in the future. I'm loving hearing that.
I probably would have bought the Earthway initially, but there was a farmer that I helped out last summer, and he originally started off with the Earthway, and I just heard again and again all these issues that he had with it, and I said, I'll put up with hand seeding because I know that I can do that better than trying to use a broken cedar, and I'll get a Jang cedar once I have the money. And then thankfully I was given the money rather than having to wait and save up, because I probably still would not have a Jang if I had not been given that. So I'm very thankful for that.
I'm going to encourage everybody out there to really assess where they're at in life and think of the assets that you do have. I mean, Dawson had some land. He is under somebody else's roof. But all of us have assets that I think we don't really take into consideration. So really focus on just a couple of minutes. Put down paper. I'm talking about your network. I'm talking about, hey, at least I have a box full of hand tools. What do you currently have that you could use? And I think you've done that very, very well. And we all have varying degrees of assets and networks. but it's taking those and not squeezing them for the advantage, but using them in a way that benefits not only them but yourself, because now you're able to help the community out by offering an alternative to better food. I see nothing but positives here, but I know that's not the case. So what's been some of the hardest blows that you've had over the last couple of years?
Well, I haven't really had big issues in the past years because I haven't been doing it commercially. But this year, flea beetles showed up, and that was something that I've never seen before, as in on this kind of scale. I'd seen a little bit of damage early this spring, but I said, oh, it's just a few holes. No one really minds about that. But then all of a sudden, I couldn't grow anything because they would just get knocked out at such a young age. And so they would just stop growing after 1 or 2 weeks. And so that was a big blow. And then just yesterday, I learned why I couldn't get a successful carrot crop. I got some nice crops from early spring plantings, but then all of a sudden, like, all my carrot plants were dead, even though I couldn't see what was going wrong with them, as in they weren't getting water or anything like that. And then I learned yesterday, oh, I have carrot rust fly, and the maggots, the larvae, are eating the roots of the really, really young carrots, and so they're dying within a few weeks of coming up. So,
which is a financial burden because you bought the seeds.
Oh yeah, and carrot seed isn't especially cheap.
Yeah, at all, especially out of a jang.
Did the armadillo or hogs do much? Actually, when they came, you didn't have as many beds. That's
true. I forgot about that. Last year, when I was just growing as a garden, and there was actually the potential that I was gonna sell some produce through different farmers. And in a way, I would have been doing commercial production there, but I had an issue with an armadillo was coming through, and I didn't have a whole lot of beds, so one armadillo can easily tear up just a few beds
in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but then one day I came out and there was nothing here. It was just a bunch of sunken holes, and a feral hog had come through one night, and everything was gone.
It was a nice smorgasbord you put out for them, you know.
Yeah, they didn't eat any of the vegetables. They went after the stuff in the ground. Probably, I'm pretty sure it was just because it was getting watered versus everything else around it was hard and baked.
I'll never forget. This was years and years ago when we had a big vegetable garden at the house. Dog barked. I went outside and had a flashlight, and I shone it. And this raccoon, I swear, was grinning at me as he was holding this watermelon. I mean, going to town on it. Yeah, there's nothing you could do at some point because he'd taken like bites out of every single one. But then he in both of his paws had like a perfect slice of watermelon, just eating it back and forth. I'm like, well, at least somebody enjoyed it, you know.
Yeah.
So that's
makes a great photo.
So with those things that happen, how are you going to get past them? What mindset are you in where you go, this is a learning experience, and this is what we're going to do about in the future?
Well, so the potential of producing commercially late summer and fall of last year, it fell through anyway, so it wasn't even going to happen. So in that way, it wasn't a big deal. The hog came through. But in another way, I just went, oh, well, now I have more tilled up area. And then, so I used that. That was helpful with getting more beds started this year.
All right, Dawson. So it seems to me that this is not a new thing with you. It seems like entrepreneurship has been around for a long time. I mean, we all have kid stories, you know, kind of things that we did. So when did you first start selling any item anywhere?
So I was really young. I can't put a number, an age on it. You'd have to ask my parents. I was probably 3 or 4. I remember, I've been told the story plenty of times, I would try to sell pencils to friends at church, but there were a big aspect of it though was just that I was young and I was keep doing it. So that aspect isn't so much trying to sell things now, which in a way is very helpful because I'm taking it a bit more seriously now. But I'm pretty sure that the main reason I was able to get sales when I was young selling things like that, like a pencil for $1, was just because I was cute doing it. Like, no one in their right mind would actually be paying $1 for a little wooden pencil.
But I think that people recognize that kind of thing needs to be celebrated. Look, here's a kid. Yes, it's outlandish, but what are other kids doing?
Yeah.
I just had a talk with a friend, and we were talking about the different people that work within our organizations. Some people are very much always going to be employees because they don't have that entrepreneurial spirit. There's a certain way of thinking that entrepreneurial people tend to do. And it seems like you've had that from the very beginning. I know I did. I know everybody that runs their own company, especially with a creative aspect, and I believe agriculture has a big creative aspect.
Yeah, it's definitely an art form. That's
innately ingrained from a very young age. So I just wanted to illustrate that this wasn't a new thing. This has been a lifelong, in your short span here, it's always been there. And I think with people buying the pencils, the support of your parents, I think that's been nurtured in a way that I certainly hope other entrepreneurs have that same support. And if they don't, they have to find other ways to get it. What was that initial spark for agriculture? I mean, everybody has that kind of aha moment about farming. What was yours?
So I think I was 4 or 5, and my dad had a big garden, and he offered to me and an older brother to grow stuff, choose out something and grow that. And I, plants it more or less. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But for many years, I gardened, but it was more of a plant and harvest. Didn't water, didn't weed, none of that. So it was mostly just planting. There was little harvesting happening. But then last year, I was sick in bed for a week and didn't have anything to really do. But I already had one of Elliot Coleman's books, and so I read that from cover to cover in probably 2 days, and just went down that whole rabbit hole from there. And just by chance, I guess, found Curtis Stone's YouTube channel, and I've probably seen all of his videos, and all of the information that he's given away for free is really fantastic, and so I'm really thankful to him for doing that.
Hey everybody, we're about 3/4 of the way through Dawson's interview, and I really needed this. I needed to be inspired by somebody really this young and give me a lot of hope for the future. Everywhere we look seems to be pretty negative if we let those kinds of things in, and Dawson is proof that positive things are out there. If there's somebody out there that you want us to see if we can interview and get a hold of, we're not afraid to ask anybody anything, and we'll do the best we can. Just get a hold of us on social, give us some show ideas, let us know what you want to hear about next, or if you want us to cover anything specific, and we're going to let Dawson get back to doing what he does best.
So there was a day that I used to want to do monocrop farming because that was the only farming that I was aware of, and we stopped by a field that was corn getting harvested, and I actually got to ride in the combine. So that was really fun. And after the farmer was done harvesting the last little bit of corn, he allowed me to drive it, 500 feet, and that I really enjoyed that. That's for sure.
So when people offer other people that opportunity to ride in a combine, to drive a combine, to me that's like micro forms of mentorship. Have you had any other mentors that have had an impact on your growing profession?
Yeah, a big one is John Llewellyn with Llewellyn Farms. He sells at the McKinney Farmers Market. He was pretty instrumental. I originally met him at the farmers market, and after I kept coming back for a few weeks, he said, "Oh, you need to come work for me." And so I went there, and I was helping out for a time, and that was really helpful, seeing things hands on, what I did and did not want to do for sure. And then there was just a lot of aspects there that I can't really put a handle on any of them in specifically, other than maybe like greenhouse construction, because he set up some high tunnels while I was there. But it's just lots of little things there that I'll just be going around, and then I'll see something and go, okay, I need to do it this way, not that way, because I've seen that just utterly fail. So,
Well, as we're looking around the farm earlier, some of the construction techniques that I've seen here, I've never seen anywhere else, and it's very. I like it, the turnbuckles, and we'll have a picture of that somewhere. But the way you have your tomato trellis up, I've never seen that particular way, and it looks super strong. I really like the way you did that.
yeah, it is pretty strong. The posts are 2 feet in the ground and concreted in. But you can. I was actually gonna add in some extra. I need it, and I probably should add in some extra support to those posts, because if you go and look in the ground, they're bowing in. There's probably an inch to 2 inches, 2-inch gap in the concrete, because it's just slowly bowing in. But I think that it'll hold for at least this year, which is all that's important. And then I'm probably going to be setting up a tunnel that I'll heat, and then I'll just be using that for trellising. So I'm going to do a winter crop of tomatoes.
So
didn't you get that trellising idea from somebody?
'Cause
I thought you said you read about that, and some of them may have been your own development.
Yeah, so some of the trellising, the idea of trellising it that way did come from Milan Farms when I was there. The way that he set up trellis for his high tunnels, but for the most part, the way that I have it set up, it was just, okay, I'm gonna put it in some posts and just hook up the cable to that. And then as I realized, okay, I need to put in more support than this in different places because it's sagging too much.
Yeah.
And it needs to be supported more. And then just over time, it's going to sag a bit as it gets worn down in the weather. And so then I just had to pull it tight and put something in to hold it in place. And then Nature's always right. I know you talked to him in California. I think he does a trellising system very similar to the way that I have mine set up. So seeing that, I went, oh, okay, well, someone else is having that work fairly well. So that was helpful to see that.
It's nice that there's so many resources, farmers sharing that. I mean, it's what we're trying to do here, that open source sharing of information. It really helps us all. So you've had some mentors, you've had some successes, you've had some failures, just like us all. What happens in the next few years? You're out and about, you're doing your thing, and somebody is coming up and needs advice. How are you going to approach that then?
Well, it depends on what they're looking for in advice, because I've had people asking for advice, and if I know the answer and they're asking a specific question, I have no issues helping them or giving them 30 minutes, an hour of my time to run down through a problem, an issue that they're having, and help them try to come to something that can help them resolve it. But there's if someone comes up and says, teach me how to farm, I'm probably going to say no, just because there's too much to touch on. There's tons of great courses, and I highly doubt that I'd have the time to sit down and go through everything with someone unless I'm charging for my time, because that's a lot of time to teach someone just how to farm. And then, for example, Curtis owns YouTube channel. Even if you're not farming in the city like he is, there's so much good information on just growing and such in there that, depending on who's out there, what kind of information, I'm sure there's going to be somebody who has even more information out there than him in a few years. I'm going to say, go look at what they're doing and allow them to put in the time learning from free information, or then make the investment to buy some kind of course.
What information have you looked for that you haven't been able to find?
I'm not really sure what I haven't really been able to find, because for the most part, when it comes down to just the basics of growing pests and such, that's not too difficult to find. Most of it is just very extremely specific stuff about my climate, and there's not really any information about that. It's more of I have to go outside and figure out what the weather's like.
There's also a lot of people that we deal with that are afraid to kind of get out and kind of put themselves out there. You're active on social, you're sharing your farm, you comment a lot. How would you help somebody that's averse of, getting out there in the digital market and going, hey, this is me and this is my story?
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, because even for myself, there's plenty of things that I'm not sharing. But it's more or less just things are going digital, so I better be getting on there. Gary Vaynerchuk, he touches on that a lot. I definitely learned some stuff off of that. But I mean, it's just one of those things that you have to kind of figure out for yourself, and not necessarily the social media, just going out and approaching people. Like, I remember so I sell to a chef in McKinney. I remember when I was taking stuff in there, I was terrified, because I didn't really, I had a backup plan, but I never approached anyone with my product before besides people that I already knew. So that was definitely an interesting experience, and it was more or less just I have to do this or else I'm not going to be able to grow my business.
Dude, all right, that's so huge, because we hear so much. I don't know how to approach a chef. I'm scared to approach a chef, but you've done it. I mean, I'm so glad we came, because you're hitting on all these things that people much, much older than you, and probably with more experience than you, are terrified to do. And that's I wanted this to be pretty inspirational, and it has been. I'm just thankful for your time. I'm super excited about being this close and be able to watch you grow over the next few years. And I hope I can help you out in some way, in any way you need. But thank you very much for your time. Thank you for allowing us on your land and to pick your brain a little bit, man. We really appreciate it.
Of course. If anyone's interested in following me, I'm on Instagram at Jubilant_Fields, and I'm also on Facebook at Jubilant Fields Farms. You can find me at either of those two places.
All right, well, we're going to let you get back to work. Dawson, Jubilant Fields, Trenton, Texas. We're gonna let you get back to work. We got to press on to another farm ourselves. And this podcast is brought to you by Bootstrap Farmer. Going to leave you with some random rab, and we'll see you in a couple days. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Dawson.